Nobody would like it if chairs were taken away from their work area, and today we've got a story that results in the place getting freaked up. We'll get into that story in just a bit, but first, you want pants at thighs and full visibility? You got it, Chief. Got called for a random urinalysis this week at Naval Submarine School. No big deal, these happen all the time, and I'm clean. But the procedure this time was extra. We were herded into the urinalysis office, and the male observer gave a very clear and strict briefing. Pants and underwear down to mid-thigh, shirts held up above the belly button. We need full visibility. Okay, roger that. But here's where I needed to add a little flavor. When it was my turn, I stepped into the stall and had to pee, but nature decided to throw in a plot twist. I had to go number 2, and, well, rules are rules. So I sat down on the toilet with my pants and briefs all the way to my ankles, because, sitting down. Undershirt held high, everything visible as instructed. The observer stood there, just watching, expression slowly fading into regret. Dude had to maintain eye contact with the goods the entire time while I took care of business. He didn't say a word. I handed him the pee cup when I was done. Mission accomplished. Hey, I followed every instruction to the letter. Kinda disgusting. I feel like your continence would be stronger holding in the number 2 than the number 1. You could have just peed in the cup and then, taken a crap in private, but, it is what it is. Secret Oscar OG replied, I never understood what's so funny about these stories. Dude doesn't want to have to do that. You don't want to. It's just because you both chose to join the military. Kinda just weird crap in my opinion. Also, hey everybody, my name is Brendan, and if you guys enjoy these malicious compliance videos, it would be amazing if you liked the video and commented down below if you're listening to our podcast. Now then, our next story is, Shut It All Down Now! Sure, no problem. So I worked at a restaurant/movie theater as a dishwasher that was open really late sometimes. Most nights that I closed, I had to wait to turn off, drain, and clean out the dish machine because it took a little for the busser to collect every dish from every theater. This guy was buddy-buddy with management and treated me and other dishies as below him. More often than not, I would be told, quote, this should be the last of it by someone bringing dishes late, but it was never true. I got in the habit of asking if they're sure or if I should wait. Well, this particular night, he wasn't feeling very patient, and when I asked if that was really everything, he cut me off saying, shut it down now, before quickly leaving the kitchen. It seemed too early in my opinion, but hey, he seemed quite agitated and I wanted to go home. So I drained the machine and cleaned it out, then shut down the rest of the dish pit. By the time I was done and the manager was checking me out, I see him meekly bagging up 2 full bus tubs of dishes. Dude never even made eye contact with me again while I worked there. Hey, his words, his instructions, you want to be the boss man, you gotta be willing to make good on the things that you tell other people to do. T. Collins 317 replied, when I was a teen, I worked at Farrell's Ice Cream Parlor. Think Applebee's with a ton of ice cream desserts. I was a dishwasher. We had a speedy system where we rinsed off the dishes, racked them, then sent them on a conveyor that took them through the dishwasher unaided. On Friday and Saturday nights, it would get so busy that both of us would not catch up until 2 hours after the restaurant closed. We'd literally get a ton of dishes. One Saturday, I didn't feel like showing up, but I felt that wouldn't be cool to my coworker, so I went in. That's when the butt manager tells me that my coworker called in sick and I would have to do it alone. Oh crap. And then he tells me that the dishwashing machine was broken and all the dishes had to be washed by hand in the sink. I was thinking that I would still be washing dishes by sunrise, so I told my butt manager that I quit, already had a second job. I later hear that the butt manager had to do them himself. Our next story is, here's a quick one. You sure you want to be added to the email list? I work for a security company at a large car manufacturer. As security, we digitally document every little thing. These new white shirts, admin employees, wanted to be a part of the action and requested to be added to the email list for incidents that we report. We're like, that's a lot of emails, are you sure? Roughly 45 emails per day. Yes, we need to stay informed. I come into work today, 2 days after their request, and see that they're no longer on the list to be included for all incidents. They said it's too many emails and want it off the list. That's it. Not super juicy, but I thought it was fun to include. Thanks for reading. Yeah, I think this goes for anybody that always has to be in the know or be, overly involved, if you will. Just kind of inundate them with more information than they're bargaining for, and they will retract that quite quickly. Snarky BTCH replied, I'm a high school teacher. Some years ago, our district adopted the Google Classroom platform, and our admin wanted to be given access to every teacher's electronic classroom. On the surface, that makes sense. Administration should be able to know what goes on. However, the average teacher in our building teaches 6 to 7 periods, and most of us have a separate classroom for each period for organizing reasons. Multiply that by 45 teachers in the building. Already, that's a lot of classes to be a part of, but if it stopped there, it might not be malicious compliance. We knew that every time a student sent a message or a question related to an assignment or turned in an assignment late, we got an email notification. We warned admin about this, that there can be a lot of emails when you have teacher access, but they insisted they get teacher-level access for every single electronic classroom in the building. A lot of advisors and coaches use Google Classroom too. They wanted full access. And again, I get it, they're entitled to it. We have nothing to hide. They're responsible for everything that happens under that roof. Just hundreds of emails, hundreds of notifications from all of our Google Classrooms, simply filling the inbox of our principal and assistant. At some point that year, they quietly logged out of all our classrooms. The next year, we didn't get the same request. This time, they were just asked to give the join code for a quick browse as a student during our observations. Our next story is, No One Enters. 25 years ago, I worked as a bouncer in Rhode Island at Lupo's Heartbreak Hotel. Lupo's was an amazing live music venue. I was working the side door to the establishment. The door was only used to let in members of the bands playing that night or employees. The band playing that night was George Clinton and Parliament Funkadelic. The opening band had already come in, and all the employees working as well. George and the band were still in their tour bus. This is when the head bouncer walks over to me and says that no one else is to come through the side door. So this day, I have no idea why. He had never said this before. With a confused look on my face, I asked, "Nobody?" "Nobody," he repeated. Still perplexed, I asked again, "Nobody?" No matter who they are or who they're with. "Nobody!" he practically screamed at me. "Okay," I conceded. Not 5 minutes later, one of the band's roadies came to the door and told me they were ready to come in. I told them that they would have to go to the main entrance. He looked confused as he had already been back and forth through the door multiple times while setting up. I told him my boss just told me that nobody, no matter who they were, could come in this way. Visibly ticked, he turned and went around to the main entrance. 1 minute later, my boss came storming over to me, looking both ticked and sheepish at the same time. Tells me to let in anyone with the band. I just smiled at him and nodded my head. 1 minute later, the band and the band's hang-arounds and groupies and random fans that were on the bus all come strolling in. All told, about 30 people. I could see my boss seething up by the main entrance as they all came in. Well, Mr. Manager, you gotta pick your battles, and ticking off the band and their groupies, probably not a battle worth picking. Our next story is, You Hang Up. No, you! Someday I'll be a saint, but today is not that day. I just heard an agent give my 80-year-old father-in-law a very, very hard time about canceling home phone service. She wanted to upsell services, etc., and get personal information she did not need to complicate what was supposed to be an easy request. It went on for a while like this. I finally stepped in and shut that down, confirmed a cancellation, and handed the phone back to him and walked away. The agent insisted it was nothing personal, just company policy to engage in customer retention efforts. He moved across country. He told her that there is no retention possible. Still, she kept him going in circles unnecessarily. I can hear the agent now begging him to hang up from the other room. This call agent cannot end the call. Company policy is that the customer ends the call. My father-in-law cannot hear as he and my mother-in-law are happily chatting away about elderly bodily functions and peanut butter crackers with apples while this poor agent is literally begging them to end the call. I will not end her nightmare. This is but one of many ways to make someone that probably already despises their job with a passion despise it even more so. That's gotta be so annoying, but hey, such is life. Maris Thee commented, After my papa retired, he would get his revenge on spam callers who wouldn't stop calling even after he was on the do not call list by being very polite and very literal. When they asked him how he was doing, he'd tell them, at length, then ask after them. Then tell them they sounded familiar. Who were their mama's people? Maybe we're related. He had fun. Our next story is, I'm telling you that freezer has been fixed. Put everything back in it. So this happened when I was about 16 and working at TCBY. I was about to get off work when the store manager told me to take all the display ice cream cakes and put them into the back freezer because the front freezer wasn't working. She then left for the day. About an hour after I did this, the store owner walks in yelling, "Why are all the display cakes not in the front freezer? We just had it fixed." I told him that I literally just got done taking them out and putting them in the back per the manager's request. Some back and forth went on until I just shrugged and put all the cakes back into the broken front freezer and left. All the cakes melted and I was fired. Oh well. Yeah, I mean, even though OP was unfairly collateral damage in this is funny. Only because OP realizes how ridiculous it is and is also laughing along with the rest of us. Future Direction 5174 replied, "LOL, love this. I was drafted in to help a nearby store by the area manager, basically working to clear the warehouse, make sure stock had been rotated and OOD stock was wasted. I had cleared the chiller, the backup freezers, the basic shelves, and spotted a freezer being used as a work surface, kettle, mugs, instant coffee on top. I cleared off the top and opened the freezer, then quickly shut it again. I went to the store manager. "How long has that freezer been unplugged?" And the manager goes, "No idea. Why?" And I say, "Because it's full of out-of-date defrosted meat. I refuse to touch that freezer." Apparently, the manager and the assistant manager ended up having to empty that freezer, count the stock, to waste it, then clean it themselves. Not my job, not my freezer. That manager ended up being transferred to training. A whole new management team was installed. I was given third in charge, and we doubled weekly trade within 3 months. I had been previously just a part-time cashier, so this was just a major boost to my income. That freezer ended up being written off and served as our staff worktop until I left 5 years later. Well, we still needed something to put the kettle, etc. on. Our next story is, "Stop doing what I wasn't paid for." I worked in a big company. I did the developer, tech lead job, project manager's job, and a big part of team leader's job. I asked multiple times to have a raise and also less work. That didn't work. When I said I did all that, my manager just answered, "Yes, you do spectacular work, but we don't ask you to do all this, so I don't know why you should get paid more than other people." Well, I stopped doing extras and focused on my job for 3 months. Everything collapsed bit by bit, except the projects I kept working on. When I was asked by the clients, I just answered, "Oh, I'm not in charge of that. You should contact X or the manager, not me." I was asked to come into the manager's office. "Why is everything falling apart? You need to do something." And I go, "It's not my job. For years, you didn't ask yourself how it happened that everything works so fine. So I stopped doing what was not in my contract. Now you ask why it's not working anymore. The answer is just that I let things fall down, and I'm glad it did because only now you notice the work I did." He was really confused. Got a raise pretty fast. Yeah, hard workers unfortunately are rarely rewarded in the workspace. Going above and beyond outside of just wearing yourself out is really a dead-end endeavor. Hate to say it, but these people, these supervisors, rarely appreciate what you do unless you do like OP did here. You pull back and you stop doing all the extra things, and then they realize how they've taken you for granted, and they can choose to either compensate you or you just won't do it. Simple as that. Third Wigan Kid replied, "I'm lucky that I currently have the opposite going on at my job, where I'm the most experienced lead on my shift. We technically are all supposed to meet certain productivity metrics, and I rarely even come close to the metric for any given workday. But my supervisors know it's because I'm the only person on my team who knows how to do some of the things I do, and they can see me always working, even though they admit they don't fully understand what I'm doing. So they just let me do whatever I think needs doing. My soup literally told me at my last one-on-one, 'I don't care about your metrics. If that ever changes, well, then I'll have to go your route with it.' Preparing Toady replied, "I had a job like that, and it was great. I hardly had any direction from my boss. I just did what I thought was interesting and important. Every year for the performance review, I'd ask to make sure I had my priorities straight, and he'd say just keep doing what you're doing." Our next story is, "Water main burst. Maintenance guy told me to stop dumping water out the window." I'm a high school science teacher, and a few years back, a water main burst in my classroom. I saw the drain was clogged, so I sent the majority of the class to the library and grabbed some students I knew could handle themselves from coaching, wrestling, and football. I had them help carry water to the window and trash cans while I called building and grounds. A few minutes later, a maintenance guy came in and yelled at me, told everyone to leave and that we should let the water fill the class until the pressure cleared the blockage in the drain. The water pressure did not clear the blockage in the drain. The whole hallway on both sides flooded, as did the hallway beneath it. Mold grew, and we had to shut down over 40 classrooms for over a year. There wasn't enough classroom space, and we had to split the student body in half and have one group come in from 5 to 11 and the other come in from 11 to 5 p.m. The repair cost the district over $15 million. All spring sports were canceled for the year. The next year's fall sports were canceled too, and in a lot of ways, the district never recovered. I got a load of crap from my supervisor, a VP, and the school principal in the immediate aftermath and wasn't brought back the next year. I got offered my old job back when they realized how much damage I was trying to prevent, but had already moved on to greener pastures. Oh, I'd have had no problem whatsoever selling out this maintenance guy that gave absolutely bum advice. Terrible that OP had to take the fall there, but as they said, greener pastures, life moves on. Our next story is, you don't want us to fill empty shelf space? Good luck selling air. Years ago, I worked for a medium-sized retailer which sold all sorts of things, from confectionery to garden supplies. The store had half an aisle near the front of the store dedicated to events, which were pretty much right in the customers' faces as they entered the store. Every few weeks, these event shelves would change over to a new department, or be themed to any upcoming holidays or special days, such as Mother's Day or Halloween. Usually for these events, we would get the stock delivered the week before and spend that week taking out the old stock and replacing it with the new lines. If a new line was missing from the delivery, we'd go and find a different line that would fit into that event from elsewhere in the store. One day in early April, we received an email from upper management. Do not replace missing event lines with any other lines. We emailed back to clarify because, of course, nearly every event delivery is missing at least one line. Do they want us to spread other items out to fill the empty space, or what? Just leave the space for any missing lines empty. It'll look like they've sold out. Barely a month later, while preparing for the Mother's Day event, we receive our regular delivery with no Mother's Day event lines. Not one. So we email upper management to let them know that we haven't received any of the event lines. They'll come on your next delivery. Do not fill empty space. Well, they did not arrive on the next delivery either. We emailed them again, informing them that we had still not received any event lines and heard nothing back. So we decided to do exactly what they asked. We cleared out the old event lines and left the entire event section completely empty for the entire 3-week period leading up until Mother's Day. After Mother's Day, during a conference call, a group call between upper management and all the store managers for the region, they asked us why we had 0 sales for the event lines and why our sales for the period had dropped significantly. We just referred them back to the other previous emails where we told them that we never received the delivery, and they had said not to fill missing lines. Cue the most deliciously sweet, awkward silence. After the call, one more email was sent out to everyone. Please use your best judgment when filling missing lines for events. And this, managers, as I've said many times on this channel before, is why you need to trust your frontline employees. They're the ones that know what the customers are looking for, far better than you and your data and metrics, so yeah. Our next story is, threw away over $1,000 worth of candy and got a raise. In the early 1990s, when I was in my 20s, I worked at a grocery store in the Midwest, whose name rhymes with herbs and was owned by the chain Kroger. After working days for about 6 months, I was eventually moved to working the 11 to 7 or 10 to 6 overnight shifts, and found that I really preferred them both for the clientele and for the different pace, and not having to deal directly with the clueless general manager. One of the duties of the lone overnight checker was to restock all the candy and snacks at the multiple checkout lanes. The candy was stored in the stairwell, giving the only access to the second floor office near the front of the store, which was an obvious fire hazard. Just picture about 10 open cardboard boxes stacked along a not particularly wide stairwell, and you could imagine how messed up the whole thing was. A lady who worked in the morning, who inventoried the candy remaining on the shelf, was a different person than the afternoon lady whose job it was to occasionally, never, inventory remaining candy in the stairwell. Then, daytime checkers who were supposed to fill the lulls between customers by cleaning their check stations and restocking candy would just grab whatever was handy at the bottom of the stairs, including opening brand new packages to take out the individual sale packages inside to top up their aisles displays, meaning that over time, those about 10 large cardboard boxes of candy each had a bunch of partial boxes and loose pieces inside of just random candy with no organization. Because I worked as the overnight checker, I was constantly getting notes attached to my time card from the general manager, who only had his job because he was golf buddies with the district manager and had never worked in a grocery store before 3 years before that, reminding me to sort out the mess by stocking the candy. One of the banes of my existence was the ordering lady in the morning ordering a bunch of cherry nibs. Apparently, it was part of a discount deal to buy a bunch of them, yet we barely sold any of them. There were unopened and partial boxes of them in every one of the larger boxes that held candy, as well as the mad assortment of other candy. Finally, after about a dozen notes attached to my time card over the course of a month, I decided to act. One night, I pulled all the boxes down off the stairs and told the night manager that I was going to sort it all out for good, and he said fine. He was actually a cool guy who let me get work done and ran a very relaxed yet efficient shift. I sorted all the candy into chocolate, gum, suckers, basically by category, labeled about 6 of the boxes, put all the stuff back in their proper boxes, and then put all the rest of the candy in a cart along with the trash that it was my job to take out from the registers at night. I then proceeded to throw what I can only estimate was $1,000 or more worth of candy, including 90% of those dang nibs, into the trash compactor in the back of the store with all the trash on top of it, so the next person who used it wouldn't notice a bunch of crushed candy and report me. The next night, when I clocked in, I was pleasantly surprised to find that instead of being fired, there was a note on my time card letting me know good job, and that I would be getting a 25-cent an hour raise starting on my next paycheck. Let it be known that nothing containing chocolate went into the trash, as I'm not a heathen. Listen, there are definitely certain candies and foods that need to be abolished, erased from existence even, so thank you, OP, for doing some good, honest hero work there. LOL, Cammy's commented, "This is one of my favorite stories to tell. When I was in college, I was applying for a summer job. I got 2 offers at the same time for full-time. I accepted the one that was closer to home. It was a local grocery store chain, Fairway Market in Victoria, British Columbia. When I started, it turned out I had been lied to. It was 5 hours a week, not 40. And at this point, all the unskilled jobs had been taken by other college students, and I was left kind of screwed over. I decided I would keep the job, but make them regret it. My job was primarily stocking shelves. We were told that if you ever see an expired product, pull it from the shelf and put it in the donation bin. So I freaking did. Over my 4 months there, I made it my goal to go through every single item on every single shelf and get rid of anything even a day past its best before date. It became apparent that nobody had ever done this before. I must have gotten rid of thousands upon thousands of dollars of food and donated it to needy families. All the while, management couldn't do a dang thing because I was just following company policy. Vampy Rewolf posted, "I'm still drinking expired coffee from a place I was let go from in May 2023. Major coffee commercial supplier and equipment rentals. I was the in-house repair tech, but helped with inventory count and incoming stock. Every month, we did a clear out of all product that hit its best before date in that month, then did inventory count and ordered based on that count. That meant a full pallet every month of expired coffee. Staff got to grab what they wanted. The rest got wrapped and put on top of the shelving to be sold wholesale." Our next story is, "Boss said we had to clock in no more than 5 minutes before schedule. I am, well, let's face it, OCD to the max. Last year, I considered myself late if I was less than 15 minutes early. It would stress me out and I would panic. Mind you, my brother died the day before I went back to work and I only missed 2 days, the day after and the day of the funeral. I guess I kind of trauma bonded to my job in a sense, so I worked my butt off to be the best there was. Anyways, no complaints all year about my timely arrivals until this year. She pointedly told staff while looking at me, no clocking in any more than 5 minutes early. Cool. So I show up 15 minutes early, sit in my car until exactly 5 minutes before my shift. Once I clock in, I'm immediately supposed to be outside on the other side of the school. Not possible with 5 minutes early, but I try. By the time I get to location, no one is there. Cool, I got this. I sit and listen to music, wasting 30 minutes because I've missed my students, but I'm where I'm supposed to be within 2 minutes of my assigned time. Then there's my lunch. I'm supposed to clock out immediately from my lunch duty and be back in 30 minutes. I sit in my car until exactly 25 minutes pass, go in and clock in, but that messed with my schedule, so I had the schedule changed. Now I have a small grace period in case others aren't there to take my place, which they try, but it's a struggle to be in 2 places at once. I always cover anyone in need, and I worked through a migraine that my doctor thought was a stroke for 2 weeks before taking an hour and a half to go to the hospital for a scan. Came back and worked the rest of the day without medications or the ability to see out of my left eye. Today I was told I'm a strain to my team. Why? Because I complied to the guidelines given to me at the beginning of the year. I'm never late to class. My students get every minute of my time, and I've spoken to my team to ensure I met all student needs. Interventionalist. My boss has never seen me in class, doesn't respond to communications, yet I'm the issue. Cool, I'm not your problem next year, and I hope you find someone as committed to student success as I am. Sincerely, the one who lost 23 people yet showed up and showed out consistently, all while getting another degree so that I could be the absolute best teacher my students could ask for. Oh, and I paid for that on my own. Resignation signed. Yeah, OP, you sound like an absolute rock star. It's a shame that you're not appreciated. I would certainly love to have someone like you as a teammate, a coworker, on staff, but you know what? Just find somewhere better, a place that's going to appreciate you a little bit more, but yeah, no, sky's the limit with that kind of work ethic. Hefty Average 2899 replied, "How can your doctor think it's a stroke for 2 weeks? If my doctor thought I was having a stroke, they would call 911 and have me transported to the ER." And OP replied to this, "I should explain a little further. I had some mild issues with one side of my body for nearly 2 weeks. On the 10th-ish day, I lost mobility in portions of my face, began slurring, and couldn't see out of that eye. Turns out I had a severe migraine that I needed to be medicated for. It was caused by stress. Called the doctor when I couldn't stop slurring. They had taken me to the hospital. I got the test run, confirmed I wasn't dying, and came back." Our next story is, "My manager changed an annoying policy that mostly affects me. In mid-2022, I was hired almost fully remotely, as agreed by HR and hiring detector, at my current job as a systems engineer. Part of my job is on-site data center support. For months, I didn't have to do anything because nothing really came up, but as time went on, I did more data center work. Not a big deal because 2 of them are close to me by car. Fast forward to October 2023. Due to client requirements, daily IDF, a data closet with network equipment, and MDF, an actual data center, checks were required again. It was split up amongst all the engineering teams, with me being the lucky one of having to do it on Mondays. My main coworker, now team lead, was over an hour away because the train to his area was down. With the express train and bus, I could get there in an hour. During the meeting, the manager stated, "You don't have to stay in the office all day." This was approved by the director. You can go in, do the checks, and leave when you want. Great! I'd go in, sign in to work while on the train and bus, do the checks and everything else I might need to do, then go home. This went on for well over a year. A couple months ago, my manager stated that if we go in, we have to stay in for the rest of the day. He didn't even have the audacity to tell us. My team lead had to tell us during a team meeting, and he thought it was complete bullcrap too. I know the reasoning, but it's such a waste of time and worse for my work. Then I realized I could go in later in the day and then leave when I sign off work at 3:30 p.m. Now I leave for the 12:30 p.m. train to get to the office by 2, 90 minutes to commute. I do the checks and anything else that might need to be done, then leave at 3:30 p.m. One afternoon, my manager calls me and I mentioned I was on the train. He asked, "Did you start late today?" I said, "No, just going to the office for the IDF checks like every Monday." He didn't respond, knowing I'm still technically listening to his stupid requirement. My team lead laughed when I told him that. Garrux Taylor replied, "Someone somewhere noticed and complained to him, or complained to someone who complained to him. 100,000% that's what happened. They don't see anything else. They just saw you coming in and then leaving and got jealous. Happened to me. I used to come into the office early and skip lunch to go pick up my daughter. Someone complained because they didn't leave for another 2 hours, not seeing I got there 2 hours early and skipped lunch." Cuddle My Cat added, When my kids were little for childcare reasons, I reduced my working hours and went part-time for a while. This was so I could come into work late every day at 10 a.m. and allow me to do the morning school run, and I worked late until 6 p.m. Monday through Thursday, whilst on Fridays I left at 2 p.m. My work also had a policy that required 2 people to work late until 6 p.m. every day to provide late phone cover, and because nobody really liked working late on a Friday, it was a rule that everyone had to take a turn at doing a late Friday once a month. However, because my working hours worked great for me and great for everyone else on my team of about 10 people, literally nobody cared that I never did a late Friday. That was because I was providing 50% of the late cover 4 days a week, Monday through Thursday. So Monday through Thursday, the rest of the team only had to take a turn at working late to 6 p.m. about once every 2 weeks, and just one Friday a month. Then we got a new manager, who for some reason didn't like that I never took a turn at working late on a Friday to 6 p.m. One day, he took me into a room and explained that I would have to start doing the same as everyone else and take a turn at a late Friday. I just nodded along and said, sure, that's fine, whatever you say. Then, when I got back out to my team, I simply announced to everyone that I had some bad news, as our new manager has just told me that I must provide the same late cover as everyone else, and so I was no longer going to be able to provide 6 p.m. cover 4 days a week, and could now only work late until 6 p.m. twice a week, just like everyone else would now have to do. Everyone immediately turned on the manager, and within minutes, he caved and everything went back to the way it was before. Our next story is, you want a fax? Okay, here's the facts. I had a consulting contract with a large financial services company. One of the rules was that I was not allowed to have investment accounts with any other companies. They were afraid of insider trading. The exception was accounts that were managed, so I was not making the investment decisions. In order to get this waiver, I needed a statement from the company that held the accounts. I called my financial advisor, and he said it was common practice in the industry and would send me the standard one-page letter that listed the details of my free accounts. I emailed the letter to HQ, and they rejected it. They needed a copy of the complete customer agreement for each account. I explained the agreement was 60 pages long, and I had 3 accounts. Sorry, no exceptions. I said I had PDF copies of the documents. They were too big to email. Could I just upload them to some server so they could fetch them? No, all documents must be hand-delivered or faxed. This client was paying about $125 an hour for my services. I spent an entire day printing the docs on their printer and created a separate fax job with cover page for each page. For the next 10 years, I had 5 or 6 contracts with this company, and each time I had to apply for the same waiver and fax the same documents to the same office. Well, OP, as you said, if you're getting paid $125 an hour, just do whatever the hell they want you to do, right? You're making bank regardless. LaRock's mommy commented, way back in the early 90s, my company had a customer that wanted to get off of our mailing list, so we would not send catalogs to him. His solution was to send us a 100-page fax stating, "Don't waste paper sending me any more catalogs. Take me off your list." He must have sent that fax at least 10 times in one night. On the plus side, we had lots of scrap paper and doodle pads for a long time after. Our next story is, my daughter is apparently going to be a future member. My wife told her to stop putting stickers all over the house, and she should only put stickers on paper. My daughter argued with her, but my wife was just done picking stickers up all over the house, especially the kitchen, so it wasn't going anywhere. An hour or so later, I walk into the kitchen and see stickers on Post-it notes, and the Post-it notes were stuck all over the refrigerator. She was so proud of herself. It was hilarious. Edit, to add some context. She was 3, almost 4 when this happened. It happened 4 years ago. It popped up in my Facebook feed. We also didn't have an issue with our kids putting stickers up, but she had emptied a sticker book like 3 days in a row, so it was getting old. My wife and I both thought it was hilarious. My wife got a picture of her next to her work with the biggest crap-eating grin you can imagine. I showed her the pic today. She's almost 8, and she cracked up, saying that sounds like something she would have done. Glad that the parents are allowing their kid to be a kid here. No harm, no foul, and it's even funnier that now that she's almost 8, she's like, yeah, I would have done that when I was little. The Copland commented, my kid joined MC when she was like 2 to 3. It had just rained, and she was jumping in puddles on our way to a store. Mom got tired of the mess and said, don't jump in that puddle. My daughter walked around that puddle and jumped in the next one. My wife was upset but realized what she said. On the way back from the store, about 45 minutes later, my kid is jumping in the puddles again, stops at that puddle, walks around and jumps in the next one. Needless to say, that set the tone for a lot of future communications later in life. Our next story is Fax and Shred. Okay guys, I'm pretty proud of this one. I'm a front desk receptionist, and I have this woman who's a team lead / manager or whatever for a department in the office I work at. She is insanely lazy. One of my jobs is to sort out the incoming mail and get it placed into the proper mail slots for the departments. Easy enough, right? This woman, I'll call her Kay, after a few months walked from the mailroom, where the fax machine is, and handed me paperwork asking her if I could fax it for her. I figure, oh, she must be in a hurry, so I say, yeah, sure. Nope, that was her testing my willingness to do things for her. She would, every time after that, open the mail in the mailroom, bring me the mail, so I could go back to the mailroom and fax it in. Now, this is only like 15 steps away, so it's not like it's on the other side of the building, but it really irked me. Like, she's right there. She knows how to do it, because she once explained how if I fax things to a few particular numbers, a program checks it and puts it in our computer system. Check and all. I confirmed that it was okay to fax the check. She agreed, so I said okay. Fast forward a few months and my boss leaves. Suddenly, I'm not doing my job and am told I need to open all of K's mail and forward mail type B. I'm withholding saying what because it becomes very apparent in the field I'm in. I make a note in my guidebook that my old boss had made and move on. Whatever, it's dumb, but the material is time sensitive, and my new boss agreed that I need to do it, so I do. Fast forward a couple more months, and Kay hasn't come to pick up her mail in 3 weeks. I email her to mention this because there were quite a few things in her mailbox. She goes and tells my manager that I'm not doing my job again, and now I have to scan in everything that's type A, the one with checks. My boss agrees and says, why haven't you been doing this? I explained that it wasn't my job and I was faxing in type B like requested, and showed her the note I made in my guidebook where I had added a note from the last conversation. Well, now it's both. 10 checks later, one of them is for over $200. I hold on to this one instead of shredding it like the others because I'm thinking this is the one that's going to make them realize what I'm doing. And sure as crap, 2 weeks later, I get questioned by another manager. Why is this in the program? Because I was told anything type A related was to be scanned. After that, they go into the shredder because it contains PII. This is a check for the payment of paperwork. Yup, things that were already sent. Okay, this needs to go to finance. Oh, I was told that all type A info gets scanned. Even checks? Even checks. Who told you this? Well, Kay did. But this isn't a request. This is payment. Yeah, I didn't know that. I'm not part of that team, so I don't know what they've done. And the wording of this doesn't say that they already received something. Maybe I'd have asked if I saw that. So this has been shredded. We can't cash a photocopied check. Actually, this one I saved because I had a feeling it was the wrong thing to do. I was going to shred it at the end of the week if I didn't hear about it. How many have you shredded? Like 5 or 7. Do you have these instructions in writing? Yep, I'll email them to you. Haven't heard from them since. Maybe Kay should come into the office and do her job like she's supposed to. I'm just following her directions. And let me just say, OP, major props for collecting a paper trail. That way, when someone tries to deflect the blame onto you, you can be like, hey, no, I'm just doing what I was told to do. 1000 IQ for sure. H100K90 replied, my mom has a 30-year-old credit union account. She's out of the state it's located now. So some information is out of date, and she needs access to her funds. The credit union would not accept a confirmation fax of an ID because their fax machine kept making the picture contrast too dark and hid the information on the card. The lady was adamant that it had to be fax, no emails, and the runaround was so annoying. We finally got someone to agree to an email from my mom while she was on the phone to confirm the email. Honestly, probably gonna close the account soon. Our next story is, Mom wanted less containers, so I happily cleaned house. Living with family means there will always be something weird that triggers someone. The other day, it was plastic containers. For context, our house has 3 kinds of containers: plastic, glass, and snapware. The snapware, bought by my mother, hardly ever gets used, and I avoid using them because my sis and I were already scolded for not putting them in the proper place, a bin in the dining room. We tend to use the plastic containers for leftovers and food, while glass was for sauces and stain-heavy foods. So, seeing some of the older containers were losing their luster, I decided to buy some new containers to spruce up the collection. Bought them in different sizes so we had variety in the closet, and hand-washed them so that anyone could use them. Cue my mother's rant the other night. She went off on me for buying new containers and not taking out the old ones. I did, but apparently filling up the cabinet with new ones made it look as if I did nothing. She even said that having all plastic was damaging the earth and I was being wasteful for buying cheap containers. And so, to comply with her orders, I did exactly what she wished. When everyone was out of the house today, I took every plastic container out of the closet and off the counters and put them all in a garbage bag. I hid that bag somewhere in the house, telling my dad that I tossed the entire collection. When he asked me why I did so, I shrugged and said I was just following orders and that he could put the leftovers in the Snapware or glass containers. I made sure he knew that Mom complained and I fixed the problem. He goes to get a Snapware container, notices how shallow they are, and proceeds to lament that they aren't as deep as the good old-fashioned plastic ones. I told him to bring it up with the missus. Only a matter of time before she notices a lack of plastic containers to place her own food in for work. The ironic part about all this is that the Snapware is also plastic-based and gets burnt easily. Now, my thoughts on this are echoed by a post that Contrainter made, so let's see what they posted. Keep the plastic ones hidden and just take them when you move out. Maybe tell her much later, but not now. After all, it's what she wants, isn't it? Our next story is, my hat is unprofessional? Okay, how's this? Years ago, I taught skiing on the weekends at a small Pennsylvania mountain. They paid minimum wage for group lessons, but if you were requested for a private lesson, you got paid about 8 times as much. Some instructors had business cards made that they would give out at the end of a group lesson so that people would remember their name if they came back for a private lesson. I was too cheap for business cards. Instead, I bought a surplus leather bomber cap. This worked like a charm. People would ask for the guy with the bomber hat. Plus, it was funny and made students smile. But the ski school instructor decided it was unprofessional and told me not to wear it. He said it was not ski gear and that I needed to wear a skiing-specific hat. So I went out to the local ski shop and bought the most god-awful ski hat I could find. It was neon green tiger-striped hat that clashed horribly with our uniforms. The students still asked for me based on my hat, and the ski school instructor had no desire to push it any further for fear I would find something even worse. We see this all the time with strict dress codes at work establishments and so forth. If they try to tell you or really micromanage what you wear, then you need to find just the most obnoxious version of what is allowed and then wear it. Omi-Wan Kenobi commented, LOL, my aunt used to drive school buses and she would wear eye-watering loud outfits. Nothing inappropriate, just very bright colors and patterns. And she would wear things like lime green bucket hats or obnoxious beanies. Someone, either parent or someone at the bus barn, got their panties in a wad over it. The kids loved it, and her employer banned her wearing hats as a safety issue. So she started doing crazy hairstyles with neon-colored scrunchies or bobble ties, like Pippi Longstocking, Whovian level updos, and Princess Diaries 2 moose updo, etc. And her hairdos ended up peeing off the people even more. To be fair, my aunt did that on purpose, but they couldn't tell her to stop, since she had first read every bit of the relevant employee handbook, and every style stayed inside the letter of what was allowed. Our next story is, wore the right shoes to work. Boss regretted it. At my retail job, the manager demanded we wear professional shoes per the dress code. I dug up the ugliest, clunkiest neon green loafers that barely fit the rules. My coworker burst out laughing, saying I looked like a radioactive clown. Customers stared, and the boss's face fell. She begged me to wear sneakers the next day, but I rocked those loafers all week. Just following the dress code, I grinned, and she rewrote the rules by Friday. Theodore commented, I briefly worked at a place that changed the dress code from casual to, quote, you need to wear a collared button-up shirt and tie. Mind you, this was a minimum wage retail job where they also made us wear an apron that covered most of our shirt anyways. It also wasn't corporate that changed the policy, but our store manager. I couldn't afford a brand new wardrobe for work, so I bought the cheapest, ugliest Hawaiian shirt I could and a clearance Christmas tie. It technically fit all of the new rules. I rocked that outfit for a full week before they changed the policy back. Our next story is, no mileage reimbursement for the first stop of the day. At my last job, I lived 5 minutes from a customer I had standing appointments with first thing in the morning, twice per week. The office was about 30 minutes away. I had another customer that was about 45 minutes from me that was over an hour from our office that I was at once per week. Management started refusing to reimburse my mileage because it was the first stop of the day and said use a company car if it's an issue. We had 2 cars for like 8 techs and one was permanently assigned to someone. Can probably tell where this is going. I told them my workday starts at 8 and I'll be at the office to pick up the car at 8. They fought that at first, but there wasn't anything they could do because the employee handbook clearly stated working hours. Unsurprisingly, the car was never available, so they had to reimburse me for way more mileage, since I was taking my own car anyway, and even when it was available, I was extremely late to every appointment that we were contractually bound to. I might have let what I was doing slip to a couple other techs, and within a week, they removed the handbook from our shared drive and rewrote the policy for the next year to reimburse partial mileage for first stop appointments, but I quit well before it got rolled out. The classic opportunity cost. What's more efficient, paying someone for mileage to use their personal vehicle or sacking a company vehicle? 9 times out of 10 in my experience, it's better to just go ahead and pay the employee their mileage. Our next story is Ask John. I've been working for a company that started out small and grew steadily over time, but unfortunately, the way they run things never really kept pace with that growth. When I first joined several years ago, I quickly noticed how outdated and inefficient many of the processes were. Right from the start, I pointed out the urgent need to automate repetitive tasks to save time and reduce errors. For example, instead of using straightforward payment solutions like PayPal or similar services, the company insisted on manually calling customers to follow up on payments. After a few months of insisting, they finally agreed to use PayPal, and voila! Fewer errors and more orders. It was time-consuming and frankly unnecessary in today's digital world. On top of that, they were using multiple software tools that didn't communicate with each other at all, which meant we had to pay an employee simply to re-enter data that the client had already submitted elsewhere. This duplication of effort was not only a waste of resources, but also a source of avoidable mistakes. We were a small team with limited time and energy, and it made no sense to spend so much of it on tedious manual tasks that any computer could easily handle faster and more accurately. I was constantly pushing for improvements, but change just didn't happen. Every time I raised the issue, the answer was always the same. Ask John, the IT guy. John didn't really care, and the company's attitude was basically, we've always done it this way, so why change it now? Over the years, all my requests were ignored or dismissed with excuses that it wasn't possible. The truth is, nobody wanted to put in the effort to rethink how things were done. They preferred sticking to the status quo, rather than disrupt their routines. Fast forward 5 years, and I finally decided to quit. That's when it became clear that the processes everyone assumed were automated were actually being done manually. By me. Suddenly, my boss sent me a message. Can you document all the processes you handle so someone else can take over? My answer was simple. Ask John. What a poetic way to stick the landing there. Ask John. Yeah, I could make everything around here better, but you know what? Just ask John. Our next story is Order to Print Video. A few years ago, I worked as an IT consultant in the Ministry of Justice, DOJ for USA. So in my freak up, excuse my French, country, you get a job for one position and you find yourself working 4 to 5 positions simultaneously. So besides doing IT consulting services for governmental archive projects as my primary task, I was also tasked with all kinds of madness, from plugging in computers to outlet. Yes, there are a lot of public servants that still can't understand the concept of electricity, through fixing printers to managing whole freaking networks and servers. Besides all that, because I had no political presence in any type of form, I was just the IT guy, and my contract being in the gray zone, contract of temp jobs that was extended every couple of months, I became the errand boy for the Secretary of Ministry. We'll call her Jazz. If I didn't comply, I would get terminated the same moment. So a lot of stupid things happened, but I'll describe 2 situations where malicious compliance peaked. So Jazz is surgically removed from the digital age, but she has an iPhone and knows how to use Viber. By the way, government in my country strictly forbids Apple products and/or chat applications to be used for internal purposes. So she was sending me orders via Viber to my private phone all the time. Couple of times she would send me some pictures to be painted in color. I was the only one in the whole building who knew how to operate a color printer. We came to first case of MC. She sent me a long video, about 2 minutes running at 24 frames per second, and ordered me to print it. Yes, to print it. I tried explaining, but to no avail. Jazz was like, "You have till the end of the shift or you are gone." So I complied, made a script that extracted every single frame from video as a separate image. That was a total of 2,880 images, and sent it to the printer. Of course, midway, toners got empty, so I changed them with the last ones we had. And next procurement is planned in like 6 months from that time. It finished printing just before the shift, and I brought it to her. I can still remember that dumb face telling me that I'm an idiot for wasting governmental property, but I had proof on Viber of the order she gave me, so Jazz shut up quickly. Second situation happened like this. I was called in the server room by intelligence personnel to check out what's happening because they smell like copper is burning. Worst thing that you can smell in a server room. So I ran in there and had a sight for my eyes. Server that we used for all communication between us and Ministry of Finance, Treasury, caught fire. No, we don't have backup or redundancy. So if it dies, we're in countrywide problem. And what happened? I'm in the middle of putting fire down with fire extinguisher when I got a call from Jazz to help her out with something. I tried again to explain the situation, but she wouldn't listen, and gave me the same ultimatum as every time before. So I got to a bit of thinking. I have 2 solutions: to not comply and get terminated, not get paid, or to comply, let the server burn, and can't get paid. So I complied, gone up, and you can guess what was the task that was so urgent that you needed me? You won't believe, she didn't know how to put a brush on a stick. You know those 2-part brushes that have a little tongue you need to click in? That she bought for her secretary to do something in her free time. So I helped and gave my resignation immediately because, in the meantime, the server burned out and I won't get paid either way. Yes, as you said, OP, if you're not getting paid either way, screw it. Take a walk, get out of there, gotta love it. Distinct Book commented, "Got a beaut for ya. Was a consultant working at Harvard, a soulless place. Little did I know, but I was assigned the worst department. They were running Paradox database. My good, or should I say bad, I had in the past taken my classes on Paradox. My classes were running it and not setting it up. They were having so many problems running it, and it was driving me crazy. I called the person that had set it up and asked for their help, but they bluntly said I'm off that project and refused to help me out. At the end of the day, there were so many open files that they wanted me to write a script to delete them. Also, they wanted it so 2 people can work on a single file at the same time. I said that doesn't sound right, and they said other departments have done it. I pored over all my books on Paradox looking for answers and didn't find them. So I called Paradox and actually talked to the guy that created it. I told him what I wanted to do, and he bluntly said, "Are you bleeping nuts?" and listed all the problems it will create. I went over the problems I saw, and he told me the database was installed incorrectly and gave me the fixes. They never thanked me for fixing this massive problem. Our next story is, regardless of the circumstance, if you did it, you should get punished. Okay. Most of these events happened years ago. A few of the details I only found out about recently. So there is a soldier we'll call Joe. Joe and I were in the army together. Joe was late for formation, and unfortunately, other people had been late earlier that month, so the chain of command was looking for someone to make an example of. Our sergeant major always said, regardless of the circumstance, if you did it, you should get punished. SGM would go on about even if the other people didn't get caught or punished, if you got caught, you should be punished, and eventually it would catch up with the other people. He would tell us this in formation all the time. So Joe ends up with extra duty and loses about $2,000 in pay. What I only found out recently and thought was karma turned out to be Joe's malicious compliance. Turns out the sergeant major was having an affair with a woman in town who just so happened to be Joe's cousin. Joe's cousin sends Joe incriminating texts and pictures, and Joe sends them to the sergeant major's chain of command and wife, adultery being a violation of the Uniform Code of Military Justice. Sergeant Major was forced to retire. Career ended. Financial loss projected at approximately $500,000 in retirement to the ex-wife. But in the end, Joe followed Sergeant Major's direction that, regardless of the circumstance, if you did it, you should get punished. I mean, hypocrisy aside, imagine if this was like the way that the actual justice system worked worldwide. Man, what a better place we would live in. Our next story is Ryanair reclaiming salary increases from workers after losing a court battle with a union. Source: BBC News. Ryanair has ordered some flight attendants in Spain to repay salary increases of up to €3,000, £2,525, following a legal dispute with their union. A pay raise has been agreed with the Spanish union, CCOO, and it applied to all flight attendants regardless of what union they belong to. But another Spanish union, Union Sindical Obrera, won a court case in March to nullify the deal. The Irish airline has now written to Union Sindical Obrera to say it will be informing its members how much they owe. Union Sindical Obrera has hit back at Ryanair's decision to claw back 5 months' worth of pay rises. But the firm said USO are complaining about pay cuts that result from their court case. It added, Ryanair is complying with the court case that Union Sindical Obrera took to cut pay while it's under appeal. Pretty crazy case of malicious compliance. Union shot its own members in the foot. Spider God commented, why the actual freak did Union Sindical Obrera vote to make it worse for their union members? None of this makes sense. Our next story is, take the chairs away from our work area? We're gonna freak this place up. I work for a major US airline for a long time and at several different airports. There's an area behind the baggage counter where the bags get sorted for their respective flights after they've been checked. We're on our feet most of the time, but we each have chairs at our workstations so we can sit and rest for a minute when there's a lull in bags coming down. Every few years, there'll be a hot crap new manager who's going to turn this airport around and make it the best performing one in the system, and they all seem to have the same idea. Take away the chairs so the agents are always standing at the belt. Now, the agents in this area are generally on the senior side, as it's indoors and out of the elements. We've done the job for a while, we know how to do the job efficiently, and we really do our best to avoid freak-ups. But as long as human error is a factor, there will always be some. Taking our chairs does nothing but piss off. Their bullcrap excuse usually is framing it as a safety issue, a tripping hazard. So that's where we start. Smaller or oddly shaped bags get sent down in a plastic tub so they don't jam the belt. Maybe you've seen them. We take them off the belt and stack them up on the ground for someone to come by and collect. Not anymore. We let them pile up on the belt, making it a giant pain in the butt for the poor idiot collecting them. They're benching constantly to the manager. We say, sorry boss, they're a tripping hazard on the ground. Next, we start following the rules. Our employee handbook lays out very clearly what the company's expectations for us are in our job duties. We're only expected to pull 1 bag per minute and take bags out no later than 20 minutes before the flight departs. Maybe you've guessed already, but those expectations are nowhere near good enough to actually complete these tasks. So, by the company's own rules, we were already going well beyond what was expected of us. We start giving them the bare minimum, 1 bag per minute, 20 minutes prior. Manager was ticked. He and the supervisors were throwing bags, and us being unionized, we documented and grieved every single time it happened, and the company, a few days later, had to pay out several thousand to agents for covered work. Delays across the board. 1,500 bags missed that day. The next morning, the chairs were back in their spots, and we continued as normal, and afterwards, no one would give that manager the time of day. A lot of passengers got freaked over that day, but we were working exactly to the rules our company had given to us, so you can blame the airline and not the agents. The handbook was changed after a while, but only extending it to 35 minutes prior instead of 20. It's still 1 bag per minute, last I looked. I was lucky enough to be a part of these events over the years, but it was the most satisfying. Yeah, in a job like this, rest is important, and being able to, as OP said here, being able to just grab a seat when it's slow and regain some energy, some vigor, if you will. I don't understand the harm in doing so. So glad you're able to get your chairs back and, the airline's running smoothly once again. Old Goat Ninja replied, at my last job, my coworker and I got sent to a week-long convention every year. We always took chairs because it required being on our feet all day, all week, with nowhere to sit. Boss always said no chairs, but every year we took chairs. Then one year he went with us, saw us packing up at the shop before heading out. We had to make the 13-hour drive while he flew, and threw a tantrum when he saw the chairs being packed. He threw them out, literally. After he left, we put the chairs back in. When we get there, we set up our booth with the chairs. He arrives, has a fit again, and yells at us for bringing the chairs. He folds them up and hides them behind the curtain. About halfway through the second day, he asked us where the chairs were. He needed to sit down. His legs hurt from being on his feet all day. Figures. DDA Silva 08 commented, "People underestimate how brutal it can be to be on your feet all day for a conference when the floor is barely padded concrete, especially if you aren't used to doing it and don't have appropriate footwear." Okay, everybody, that's all the time we got for today. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like and comment down below. And if you want to check out any of our other videos, click the video on the right. All that being said, I will see you all next time.